Hello guys, in this video we'll be analyzing Wilfred Owen's exposure, focusing on language, form and structure. Exposure was written by Wilfred Owen in 1917, based on his experience as a soldier in the freezing trenches of World War I. Owen's poetry contrasts with contemporary glorification of war, brutally exposing the old lie that it is sweet and honorable to die for one's country. Dulce et decorum est. The title exposure is an abstract noun. It explicitly refers to being exposed to danger and extreme weather. Implicitly, the title signifies exposing war's true nature, brutal, unglamorous, and undignified. The poem's length and drawn-out nature parallel the pointlessness of war dragging on. Ellipses indicate periods of nothingness, extending time. The shorter fifth line destabilizes the stanza, potentially representing life being cut short. The repetition of "but nothing happens" creates a cyclical structure and highlights the perpetual state of waiting and torture. The cyclical structure creates a sense of fatality and doom and reinforces that there is no escape for the soldiers. Their fate is sealed. Owen uses half rhymes or para-rhymes to create disharmony and discomfort, emulating the harsh trench conditions and the mental strain the men are constantly under. The discordant meter, with lines ranging from 12 to 14 syllables, replicates the unnatural and dystopian reality of the situation. The fixed rhyme scheme ABBAC may reflect the unchanging universal nature of war, where destruction and suffering are inevitable. This structure might equally portray nature's permanent upper hand, emphasizing the futility of war. There are no winners in war. If it is not a physical death, then it is a psychological death. If death has not claimed your life, then you are left with physical or psychological scars that will haunt you for the rest of your life. No one is spared. Collective pronouns establish the poem as a personal but collective experience. The personification of the wind as merciless and the dynamic verb knife depict the weather as a deadly attacking enemy, intent on inflicting pain and deadly wounds. The stative verb ache signals the soldier's powerlessness. Assonance reinforces this feeling, whilst sibilance, juxtaposed with consonants, create a cutting, bitter edge to the elements. The personification, mad gusts, suggests the wind is wild and uncontrollable, almost demented. The stative verb here, yet again, underlines the soldier's powerlessness. A graphic simile compares the tugging wire to twitching agonies of men. The barbed wire, compared to brambles, exemplifies how unnatural war is. Synesthesia suggests the soldiers are overwhelmed by their multisensory environment, feeling distant from the actual war. The soldiers question the war's purpose, highlighting its pointlessness. Dawn brings only poignant misery. It is personified as a determined military leader. The army of clouds massing in the east mirrors the German army lined up in ranks, ready to attack the powerless, shivering ranks of British soldiers. The weather is the enemy. The long O sound draws out the painful process of awakening in such miserable weather. The combination of sibilance, assonance, and triple emphasizes that the men have been at war for so long they have forgotten everything else. The repetition of "but nothing happens" is used again. Irony is present when the bullets are less deadly than the air that shudders black with snow. The men fear the uncontrollable weather more than the gunfire. The wind's nonchalance personifies its apathy towards human suffering. Deadly sibilance quickens the pace, emphasizing the suddenness of the bullets, creating a sinister atmosphere. Personification continues as pale flakes with fingering stealth come feeling for our faces. The wintry elements are an enemy on the attack. Animal imagery dehumanizes the soldiers who, quote, "we cringe in holes." The neologism, snow dazed, shows the confusion. Romantic imagery of blossoms contrasts the horror the men are suffering as nature carries on undisturbed. The stanza describes the soldier's thoughts slowly drifting home, seeing sunk fires and hearing crickets. The assonance conveys the immense effort required by the cold soldiers to engage with a world beyond their current environment. This presents a sad image of soldiers in France, totally disregarded and forgotten by those back in England. The final dehumanization is shown as only mice are left to rejoice in their empty homes. The caesura marks a point of no return. The men cannot go home until they have won the war. This conveys the soldiers as physically and psychologically fractured individuals. The declarative statement confirms the men have given up, returning to a limbo state between living and dying. The soldiers question God's love, and their faith dwindles due to the war. They fear they won't be alive to see the spring that God will make to follow winter. Biblical imagery suggests they realize their fate is to sacrifice themselves like Christ for the good of others. The frost will freeze everything, including the mud and the soldiers. Burial parties will see those who died of exposure. The repetition of nothing happens is ironic, highlighting that no heroic battle has occurred, only a slow and terrible death. The short phrase and horrific image, all their eyes are ice, mean the eyes of the dead men are literally frozen by the cold, unable to see the horror of war. On the other hand, the soldier's eyes, compared to ice, could highlight the lack of emotion about burying corpses, linking to the cold, hostile environment. The poem Exposure explores several key themes. The power of nature links to poems like Storm on the Island and Ozymandias. It equally touches on collective or individual experiences, similar to Charge of a Light Brigade, and the effects of war, which connects to Remains and Bayonet Charge. Wilfred Owen uses a fixed ABBAC rhyme scheme in the poem Exposure to reflect the unchanging nature of war, emphasizing that it brings destruction and suffering without victors. The structure equally reflects the soldier's psychological torment, trapped in a cycle of anxiety as they endure harsh conditions, waiting for an attack that never comes. The contrast between the longer first four lines and the shorter fifth line in each stanza highlights the abruptness and fragility of life in the trenches, underscoring the futility and harsh reality of war. Additionally, the rhyme scheme suggests nature's dominance over human conflict, reinforcing the poem's message about the enduring power of a natural world versus the transient and devastating impact of war. To produce powerful analysis, use synonyms for shows such as depicts or illustrates. Employ ambitious adverbs like judiciously or ingeniously. Analyze in depth by giving different layers of interpretation to evidence your views. Use transitional phrases like furthermore or moreover. Write with a bit of flair and class. Include words like substantiate or encapsulate. Create clear, ambitious sentences in the simple present tense.
Remember, literature transcends time and generations. Convince the reader of your views. Involve them in the arguments you're putting forward. Use inclusive language like we to foster engagement and connection. Owen conveys war as physically and psychologically debilitating in his poem Exposure. Through juxtaposing the stative verb ache with the dynamic verb knife, he ingeniously portrays the brutal physical and psychological attack on the soldiers by the merciless iced east winds. This imagery directly challenges the old lie that it is sweet and honorable to die for one's country, dulce et decorum est. Owen exposes the shocking reality and horrors of war, including the extreme weather conditions and the inescapable physical and psychological torment soldiers faced.
And there you have it, a complete analysis of exposure. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. It would be great to read your analysis of exposure in the comment section. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye.